Park Chang leads an ordinary life with his wife, Miho, until one morning, he uses her ointment without asking, irritating her. They head to work. Miho, a nurse, faces jealous colleagues who assume she married for money, though she insists otherwise. That day, Chang loses a major case. A crowd mocks him as Big Mouth for his talkative but unsuccessful reputation. Outside the court, he sits with his father-in-law, Gu Kwang, when Miho calls. Reluctant, he answers and admits his loss, meaning no income. Furious, Miho demands a divorce. Chang tries to use Gu Kwang's influence, but Miho remains firm. That night, Miho drinks while her father packs Chang's belongings. Desperate, Chang asks for help, but Gu Kwang can't intervene. The next day, Chang returns with a large sum of money, hoping to reconcile with Miho. Suspicious, she questions him, unaware he got the money from Mayor Choi, who hires him for a case. The case involves Dr. Han, Dugun, and Chaibong, 3 men arrested after a car accident, revealed a corpse in their trunk. But Chang won't be their real lawyer, he's just a front while they bribe judges. Choi hints at a hidden dashcam video and claims to seek the truth. Despite doubts, Chang accepts and visits the prisoners, who dismiss him as a pawn. Then, the warden calls. Police received an anonymous tip about the dashcam footage, secretly from Chang. Before leaving, he plants a recorder in their cell and overhears them mention another accomplice with the video. Chang immediately informs the mayor. Choi and Chang visit the studio where Miss Jang, Dr. Han's wife, is filming her cooking show. That same day, a mysterious man attacks her, but her visitors save her. Chang questions her about the dashcam video, but Jang denies having it. He then plays the prison recording, warning her that she could be charged as an accomplice. Fearing for herself, Jang hands over the video and also reveals the name of Gong Ji-hoon, a powerful newspaper president. At home, Chang watches the footage. It captures the 3 men murdering Professor Seo. In his final moments, Seo warns them that their secret will come out. With the mayor's payment, Chang's financial situation improves, so he takes Miho to an expensive dinner. However, a sudden call forces him to leave. A kind employee offers him coffee, but it's drugged. Dizzy while driving, Chang crashes his car. As he lies unconscious, a man searches his vehicle and steals the dashcam video. His troubles escalate when the police raid his office, uncovering drugs, cash, and gold. Branded as the notorious criminal Big Mouse, Chang is arrested. Desperate, he seeks Mayor Choi's help, but Choi coldly turns him away, warning him to be more careful. In prison, the 3 men decide to kill Chang, deeming him useless. But just before his execution, Gong Ji-hoon intervenes, ordering the warden to stop. Big Mouse has stolen his money, and he needs him alive to retrieve it. Now trapped in prison life, Chang watches Miho speak to reporters. She turns to the camera, telling him she tried to visit but was denied. Later, a prosecutor interrogates him, even using a lie detector, but the scene cuts before revealing the results. Meanwhile, Ji-hoon warns his allies not to touch Big Mouse until he finds his money. The warden, amused by the power struggle, watches it unfold like entertainment. Curious, the warden questions Chang directly, initially friendly but growing hostile when Chang insists he isn't Big Mouse. Disillusioned, Chang no longer cares if he lives or dies. He picks a fight with the prison boss, Chun-sik, but in the struggle, he realizes his survival instinct is stronger than his despair. He then confronts a psychotic serial killer, daring him to attack, but the man breaks down in tears when Chang mentions his mother. This bizarre moment convinces the other inmates. Only the real Big Mouse would have the audacity to challenge anyone without fear. Later, Chang pretends he is trying to escape, hoping the guards will shoot him, but instead, they only arrest him. The warden, watching through his cameras, orders his men to stand down. The next day, prisoners are sent to clean the drains, but when the guards bring them disgusting food, tensions rise. Fully embracing the persona of Big Mouse, Chang incites a riot. The prisoners hurl buckets of waste at the guards, and chaos erupts until the warden intervenes. Chang boldly whispers in his ear, warning that if his life continues to be miserable, he will kill the warden and the 3 powerful men. Forced to reconsider, the warden allows the prisoners better food. Later, Chang learns his lawyer has arrived, and Miho is with him. She received the divorce papers and wants to stop him. Chang insists it's to protect her, but Miho refuses to leave him, determined to stand by his side. Chang is then placed in solitary confinement, where his identity fully merges with that of Big Mouse. A voiceover references Carl Jung, stating that a man becomes the persona he repeatedly envisions. When he returns to the general population, he is a changed man. Prisoners revere him and he takes his influence further. He instructs Jerry to spread the word that he will grant the prisoners' wishes. Several inmates approach him with requests. The cell leader asks Chang to find his missing daughter, lost for years. The psychotic serial killer, once his enemy, asks for help with his sick mother. Meanwhile, Miho starts working as a nurse at the hospital where the mayor's wife is employed. She hopes to uncover information about Professor Seo, who, according to the dashcam video, may have left behind a document that could expose powerful figures. She begins caring for cancer patients and performs CPR on one who goes into cardiac arrest, saving their life. Instead of being praised, she is scolded by Hun, who explains that all patient relatives on this floor have signed a do not resuscitate order. Miho finds this suspicious. During a break, she sees a hospital staff member pressuring a woman to sign the same order for her relative. Back in prison, the three powerful men summon the warden, demanding Chang's death. The warden hesitates. He has orders from Ji-hoon to keep Chang alive, but the bribe they offer is tempting. Eventually, he agrees to look the other way. Soon, the three VIPs gather inmates to ambush Chang and his follower. The guards lock them in together, and a brutal fight breaks out. Amid the chaos, the serial killer, despite pretending to be loyal, pulls out a knife and moves toward Chang. However, the cell leader notices and sacrifices himself, jumping in the way. Before the fight escalates further, the warden intervenes. If Ji-hoon finds out he was involved, it could cost him dearly. The next day, Miho faces trouble at the hospital after administering 2 milligrams of a drug instead of 1. When the head nurse scolds her, they check the patient's file, which now shows 1 milligram. However, Miho insists the dosage was changed and presents a screenshot as proof. During a staff meeting, she challenges Han, citing Professor Seo's research paper, which exposes major ethical violations in their hospital. On her way home, she senses someone following her. Fortunately, she meets her father and gets home safely. Soon after, the mayor calls, requesting a meeting. Meanwhile, in prison, the situation shifts in Chang's favor. One of his attackers dies in solitary confinement, and though guards assume it was a suicide, an inmate frantically claims Big Mouse is behind it. Later, in the cafeteria, tensions rise when a recently released inmate drops dead from poisoning, fueling the belief that Big Mouse is eliminating threats. Even Chang begins to suspect the real Big Mouse is operating from within the prison. Ji-hoon visits Chang, demanding his money back. When Chang refuses, Ji-hoon tests his identity as Big Mouse, asking him to name his top 5 drug clients. Chang dodges the question, claiming client confidentiality. Ji-hoon gives him 5 days to provide the names or die. Desperate, Chang steals a guard's phone to call the mayor, who possesses the list but refuses to help. Elsewhere, Warden Park and his team review security footage and discover the poisoned inmate had swallowed a cyanide pill, confirming suicide. With no direct link to Big Mouse, they search Chang's cell but find nothing. Later, the warden confronts him, suspecting he craves power rather than bloodshed. Chang smirks, hinting that he manipulates others into destroying themselves. Miho, still being followed, discreetly texts her father. Mr. Ji and Suntae intercept the stalker, who confesses he's the mayor's secretary. Choi soon visits Miho, claiming he had her followed for protection. He hands her a list of Big Mouse's top 5 drug clients. Miho rushes to deliver the list to Chang. Inside the prison, the betting frenzy over Big Mouse versus the VIPs escalates. To settle the matter, Chang directly challenges the VIPs, proposing a wager to prove his true identity. Meanwhile, Choi meets Ji-hoon at an art gallery, where Ji-hoon reveals the list given to the prosecutor was fake. If Chang provides those names, his cover will be blown. Choi tries to warn him, but the warden already has his phone. Soon, the guards escort Chang to the meeting room. As he walks through the prison, inmates cheer for Big Mouse. The mayor arrives to witness the spectacle. In the meeting, Ji-hoon writes 5 names and seals them. Chang must do the same. If their lists match, he is Big Mouse. The room watches in tense silence. When the papers are revealed, the names are identical. Gasps fill the air. Some inmates celebrate their winning bets, while Choi stares in shock, realizing Chang might actually be Big Mouse after all. Ji-hoon refuses to believe that Chang is Big Mouse and announces that Peter Hong, Big Mouse's fund manager, has been arrested. Since Hong handled Big Mouse's investments, he can confirm Chang's identity. Chang is taken to the interrogation room, where the prosecutor asks Hong if Chang is Big Mouse. However, before he can answer, Hong's alarm goes off. It's time for his insulin shot. He takes it but suddenly dies. Later, Ji-hoon privately questions Choi, hinting that he might be Big Mouse. Choi appears uneasy, but Ji-hoon laughs it off as a joke. Their conversation reveals lingering tension. Both owe their success to a powerful figure known as the Elder, but Ji-hoon resents that the Elder favors Choi. That evening, Ji-hoon invites Miho to dinner, treating her as a potential threat if she truly is Big Mouse's wife. He offers to buy Professor Ku's research paper from her, but Miho refuses and walks away. Meanwhile, inside the prison, Chang distributes winnings from the gambling ring, paying off the warden to keep him at bay. The 3 VIPs grow increasingly paranoid, convinced Big Mouse will soon eliminate them. Ji-hoon visits the prison to meet with them but unexpectedly encounters Chang. During their tense exchange, Ji-hoon receives a call from his wife. Someone sent her funeral flowers. Realizing it's a warning from Chang to stay away from Miho, Ji-hoon grows visibly unsettled. Later, Chang confronts Dr. Han, one of the VIPs, revealing he has seen the dashcam footage. He knows Han was only the driver when Ku was killed, meaning Han won't be charged as the murderer. But since the authorities don't have the video, Chang wants him to confess in court. Han refuses until Chang nearly kills him. When Han regains consciousness, he's convinced to cooperate. At the hospital, Miho grows suspicious of the head nurse and secretly follows her. She loses track of her inside a storage room, as if she vanished. Just then, the guard and Ms. Hyun find Miho through the security cameras. Pretending to be gathering medical supplies, Miho plays it off. Before leaving, Hyun reminds the guard never to enter the secret compartment inside the storage room, something even the previous hospital director warned against. The next day, Choi meets with Miho, claiming her husband has deceived them all. Chang really is Big Mouse. Miho refuses to believe it, but Choi explains that the list of drug clients he gave her was fake. Yet, when Chang faced Ji-hoon, he provided the real names. That same day, a hospital volunteer program brings dental care to the prison, allowing Miho to meet Chang privately. She immediately asks if he's truly Big Mouse. Aware that they're being watched, Chang leads her to a secluded spot where the warden can't eavesdrop. He finally reveals the truth. Before his face-off with Ji-Hoon, someone knocked him unconscious. When he woke up, a tarot card with 5 names was placed on him. Unsure if it was a trick, he debated whether to use Choi's list or the tarot card names. But when Choi visited him looking uneasy, Chang knew something was off and used the tarot names instead. Since then, the real Big Mouse has been communicating with him through tarot cards. If a card is placed normally, it signals that Big Mouse will take action. If it's upside down, it means Chang must act himself. Meanwhile, Han, one of the VIPs, privately meets with his wife and tries to force himself on her. Jang resists, aware that prison cameras might be watching. Enraged, Han beats her. As the hospital staff leaves, Miho notices bruises on Jang's neck and offers to help her in any way she can. That night, Miho receives a call from a woman she saw at the hospital days earlier, someone pressured into signing a suspicious contract. The woman reveals that Seo's research paper exists and is hidden inside a piece of jewelry. Before his death, Seo entrusted her with concealing something inside a cross-shaped necklace. But as she speaks, an assassin pushes her to her death. Miho confronts Director Hyun after noticing she wears a similar cross. Without hesitation, Hyun hands it over for inspection, but Miho finds nothing inside. Later, while watching a forum video, she and her group realize that Jang, Han's wife, also wears a cross pendant. This could be the real hiding place of Seo's research. A flashback shows Jang meeting Professor Seo while running from home after being abused by Han. Seo took care of her and over time they fell in love. At some point, he gifted her the necklace. In the present, the 3 VIPs are being taken to court, where Han is expected to testify. But the warden ensures that Chun-Sik's gang holds Han back, preventing him from speaking against the others. Unexpectedly, Chang laughs. This was his plan all along. He knew Han wouldn't tell the truth outside prison. During the commotion, Chang's men stage a fight with Chun-Sik's gang, using the chaos to break the Holy Mary statue inside the prison church. Chang's real goal is to unmask Big Mouse. He replaces the broken statue with a new one embedded with a hidden camera, hoping to catch whoever delivers the tarot cards. Meanwhile, at the hospital, another cancer patient dies. Miho, growing more suspicious, visits the grieving family and overhears that the contract they signed required cremation instead of burial. This sounds like an attempt to destroy evidence. Determined to investigate, Miho sneaks into the hospital morgue at night to collect a blood sample. As she leaves, Hyun and security guards intercept her, ordering a search. But Miho has hidden the sample elsewhere. Once alone, she retrieves the vials and heads for the elevator. Suddenly, an assassin drops in through the ceiling hatch and attacks her. Luckily, Choi arrives just in time, forcing the attacker to flee when the doors open. Back in prison, Chang reviews the church camera footage and sees Jerry frequently entering and leaving. But he notices a suspicious 30-minute gap, likely edited by the real Big Mouse. This confirms that Jerry isn't Big Mouse. He was simply in the church by chance. Soon, Ji-Hoon approaches Jerry, promising him freedom in exchange for poisoning Chang. Jerry reluctantly follows orders but later regrets it. He rushes to Miho, warning her that Chang has been poisoned. Miho and her father intervene just in time to save him. Grateful for Jerry's honesty, they reward him with money. As Chang recovers in the prison hospital, a guard pricks his finger to obtain his blood, then secretly signs a document with it. Later, he hands the signed paper to Ji-Hoon in a parking lot. Miho spends some time with her husband when she wakes up, but the guards don't let her stay long. As Chang is taken outside, he hugs her before the officers escort him away. On the way, Chang realizes the guards aren't taking him back to prison. He resists trying to escape, but they inject him with a sedative, knocking him out. When he wakes up, he finds himself in a mental asylum. Chang dreams of being back in the prison church, where Big Mouse approaches the confession booth. He attacks him from behind and they fight. Chang manages to remove Big Mouse's mask, only to see his own face staring back. Jolted awake, he finds himself restrained in a white room, unable to move. The nurses torment him, keeping him awake under strict orders. Meanwhile, the prosecutor tells Ji-Hoon they're preparing Chang for a truth serum injection. When administered, Chang starts hallucinating. A mouse on his leg multiplies into a swarm, terrifying him. Under the serum's influence, Ji-Hoon asks if he is Big Mouse. Chang insists he isn't. Ji-Hoon then demands to know where his stolen money is. Chang, still disoriented, denies taking it. As the serum wears off, Chang briefly dreams of an excursion he took with his wife on a mountain near their city. When he wakes, Ji-Hoon prepares to inject him with a second dose. The prosecutor warns that another injection could cause cardiac arrest, but Ji-Hoon doesn't care, he just wants his money. Desperate to survive, Chang names the mountain from his dream, buying himself time. Ji-Hoon and his men dig at the location, uncovering a wooden box, only to find a single gold bar inside. Furious, Ji-Hoon returns to the asylum, demanding the rest of his money. But when Chang hears they found gold, he realizes Big Mouse is still watching over him. Soon, a fire breaks out in the asylum, giving Chang a chance to escape. However, a strong male nurse blocks his path, forcing him into a brutal fight. Amidst the chaos, a firefighter helps him. It's Jerry. He hands Chang car keys, revealing that Big Mouse paid him to orchestrate the escape. Chang asks if Jerry met Big Mouse, but Jerry has no time to explain and drives off. Unfortunately, Jerry is intercepted by the police and injured while trying to flee. Meanwhile, authorities are searching everywhere for Chang. That night, he reaches a police checkpoint. As an officer checks his ID, he discreetly glances at his phone, comparing Chang's face to the fugitive's profile. After a tense moment, the officer lets him pass. A subtle camera angle reveals a tattoo behind his ear. The next morning, Miho and her group take action. They leak information about Professor Seo's case to a web show with 800,000 subscribers and stage a protest outside the courthouse, claiming Chang was abducted, not escaped. When Miho confronts the prosecutor, she demands he do his job. He asks for her phone, checking if she's in contact with Chang. Later, Chang calls Sun-ha, requesting to speak with Miho. He reassures her and vows to expose everyone, including Big Mouse. The next day, the three powerful men go on trial. However, as the hearing begins, Chang appears on a live web stream, predicting the outcome. He claims the trial is a sham and explains the strategy being used. The prosecutor will present three key arguments, one being that their DNA was found on Professor Seo's corpse. But the defendants will counter this by claiming they attempted CPR, which explains why their DNA was there. A flashback reveals that after crashing their car, the three murderers devised this plan, knowing forensic evidence would link them to Seo's body. News spreads across the internet. Big Mouse is live, making perfect predictions about the trial. Ji-Hoon is informed by his secretary and quickly signals the prosecutor to request a break, giving his side time to regroup. Meanwhile, Ji-Hoon receives a call from Jang, who claims to have Seo's research paper. She offers it in exchange for one thing: her husband, Han, must sign their divorce papers. Ji-Hoon acts fast, forcing Han to sign before delivering them to Jang at the meeting point. Jang hands over a USB drive, but when Ji-Hoon checks it, he becomes furious. It contains an irrelevant paper, not the crucial research he seeks. He accuses Jang of trying to deceive him, insisting that Seo was murdered for something far more valuable. Suddenly, Ji-Hoon realizes he's been recorded the entire time. Enraged, he smashes the camera. Before he can do anything else, the mayor intervenes, helping Jang leave safely. Outside the courthouse, Chang makes a public promise to reveal the truth, but before he can say more, he is arrested and sent back to prison. Elsewhere, Jerry regains consciousness in the hospital, where a doctor with a tattoo on his wrist hands him a note. Back in prison, Chang's return is met with intrigue. Meanwhile, the mayor is revealed to have a secret vault filled with gold bars and sensitive information. The next morning, the elder summons the three former prisoners to reprimand them. Just then, Chang enters, surprising everyone by handing over Professor Seo's Real research paper, which he secretly obtained from Jang. He tells the elder that with this in his possession, nothing can threaten him now. As they leave, the three men confront the mayor for humiliating them. They remind him that they helped dispose of Seo's body, but the mayor remains unfazed. He reveals that his men orchestrated an accident to expose them, ensuring their downfall. Choi adds that he obtained the dashcam footage of the incident but destroyed it. Now, even if they try to frame him, no one will believe them. He warns them that their only option is to help him stay out of trouble, because that's the only way he can help them in return. Inside the prison, Chang leaves a message for Big Mouse, demanding a face-to-face meeting or he will stop cooperating. Big Mouse agrees. When Chang arrives at the meeting spot, he is shocked to see Warden Park. The warden boldly claims that he is Big Mouse, but Chang remains skeptical. Park insists, revealing that he was the one who eliminated the men who attacked Chang weeks ago, something only someone with full control over the prison could do. Chang, however, isn't convinced. He plays a recording of their conversation, having secretly taped the warden's confession. Yet, deep down, he believes Warden Park is just another pawn working under the real Big Mouse. Meanwhile, strange symptoms begin spreading among the prisoners. They develop unusual cravings for the vitamins administered by Gucheon Hospital. Around the same time, Miho is fired from the hospital. Determined to uncover its dark secrets, she applies for a job at the prison. That day, Miho saves the life of an inmate, earning her a position. Later, when the prisoner is taken to the hospital, doctors run tests but find nothing unusual in his blood work. Still suspicious, Miho secretly collects a blood sample and hands it over to an unknown contact. Chang hands the recorder to the mayor and prosecutor, leading to Warden Park's arrest. That night, Dr. Han drinks a spiked coffee and gets into a severe accident. Later, when Chang is alone with Miho, he shares his suspicion that the mayor is Big Mouse. Miho has also discovered something strange. The blood type in the latest hospital report was altered. Chang recalls that the mayor was near Miho when she was attacked in the elevator, making him the prime suspect for swapping the blood samples. The next morning, the new warden, Gon-Suk, gathers the inmates. After introducing himself as the new authority in charge, he announces the installation of red complaint boxes for anonymous reports. He then orders a prison-wide search, claiming it's to confiscate weapons. However, his true goal is to uncover Big Mouse by checking if any inmate has a tarot card tattoo. Soon, his plan works. They find an inmate bearing the tattoo. Chang discusses the discovery with Gon. The next day, former Warden Park returns, now as a prisoner. Despite his fall from power, he arrogantly slaps Gon, but the new warden quickly puts him in his place. Later, Gon assembles the inmates again, presenting Park and others who bear the tarot tattoo. He declares that Big Mouse has built a vast underground network within the prison. To uncover the mastermind, he offers favors to anyone who helps identify Big Mouse. He also reveals that Chang is not Big Mouse, exposing him as a fraud. This sparks chaos. Prisoners turn on Park, beating him to force out Big Mouse's identity. Chang intervenes, stopping the violence. Furious, he storms into Gon's office, demanding answers. However, the warden asserts his dominance, making it clear that he is the true power inside the prison. When Chang tries to call the mayor for backup, Choi dismisses him, saying he's in a meeting. Meanwhile, Dr. Han finds his ex-wife, Jang, and pleads for a second chance. She refuses, but their argument turns violent, leading to her tragic death. The mayor arrives to cover it up, stealing Jang's phone and discovering she had been in contact with Miho about inmate blood samples. Alarmed, he calls Warden Gon, giving him urgent instructions. Shortly after, Gon declares that both Chang and Miho must die that night. At the prison yard, Chang warns Park, this is Big Mouse's last chance to meet him. If the mastermind doesn't show, Chang will stop assisting his organization. That night, as the prison lights suddenly go out, Big Mouse finally appears. In the darkness, Chang lights a flame, and is shocked to see that Big Mouse is the room leader. Chang demands to know why he was chosen. Big Mouse explains that he believed Chang needed saving. He then reveals his true vendetta. Ji-Hoon and the Elders organization were responsible for his daughter's death, and he won't stop until they are punished. Chang, unwilling to be a pawn in this war, tries to back out, but Big Mouse threatens to kill him if he does. Meanwhile, Miho is ambushed by Gon's most trusted guard, but she is saved at the last moment by the prison's psychotic killer. Gon himself then arrives to finish the job, but Chang intervenes just in time. Park and Big Mouse enter, and in the chaos, the former warden seizes the moment. He kills Gon with his own gun. Now it's Chang's turn to make a move. He calls Ji-Hoon, demanding he come to the prison. Then, in a shocking twist, he handcuffs Big Mouse, preparing to turn him in. A flashback reveals the secret deal Chang made. He will become Big Mouse's lawyer, securing his release on bail. In exchange, Big Mouse will pay up, allowing Chang to walk free. Back in the present, Chang surrenders Big Mouse to the authorities while the mayor and Ji-Hoon watch. He then approaches Ji-Hoon, telling him that he can now retrieve his missing money. Shortly after, Chang is released and formally takes on the role of Big Mouse's lawyer. The media is stunned, but Chang reassures them he will handle the case ethically. Ji-Hoon meets with the Elder, expecting to be rewarded for exposing Big Mouse. The Elder is prepared to transfer all his company shares to Ji-Hoon, effectively handing him full control. However, their meeting is interrupted when Who switches on the TV. Chang is holding a press conference, vowing to dismantle the corruption plaguing their city. Infuriated, the Elder immediately retracts his offer, declaring that Ji-Hoon has failed to complete his task. Ji-Hoon insists he will take care of Chang, but the Elder warns him not to underestimate the man who uncovered Big Mouse. A few days later, Big Mouse secures bail under strict conditions, including constant police surveillance. Chang personally drives him to his old restaurant, where Big Mouse fondly recalls the time he spent there with his daughter. Before parting, he invites Chang to return the following evening to meet the organization's highest-ranking members. However, just as Chang leaves, the restaurant explodes. After the police complete their investigation, Chang revisits the wreckage, only to be ambushed by an assassin. The attacker nearly succeeds, but Jerry and an ally intervene, saving Chang's life. Jerry then takes him to a clandestine meeting of Big Mouse's organization, where they watch a pre-recorded message. In the video, Big Mouse states that if they are seeing this, he is already dead. He names Chang as his successor. Park vehemently opposes the decision, but Chang makes it clear he has no intention of remaining Big Mouse indefinitely. He will lead only long enough to accomplish his objective. Tai then arrives, revealing that he has been a covert member of the organization all along. When Park continues to resist, Chang subdues him, ties him up, and douses him in gasoline, forcing him to make a choice: accept the decision or leave the organization. Meanwhile, the mayor is ambushed while swimming at his gym, but manages to fend off his attackers. At the same time, Hyun gains access to a secret laboratory within Gucheon Hospital, though the full extent of her discovery remains undisclosed. She later destroys the lab and confronts the Elder, asserting that it was a liability. To rebuild it securely, she demands control over Ji-Hoon's company shares. The Elder grants her request, leaving Ji-Hoon powerless and enraged. The following day, the mayor publicly addresses the recent attack, urging restraint in speculation until the police provide verified information. That night, Ji-Hoon drinks with his associates, oblivious to the trap being set for him. The next day, Chang contacts him, requesting a meeting. To gain Ji-Hoon's trust, Chang proposes an alliance against Mayor Choi, knowing their rivalry runs deep. Shortly after, Chang holds a press conference, announcing his candidacy for mayor. Recognizing an opportunity, Ji-Hoon arranges a meeting between Chang and the Elder. During their conversation, Chang boldly claims to be Big Mouse. The Elder, unconvinced, dismisses the assertion, knowing Big Mouse is dead. Chang clarifies he is being forced into the role and suggests they join forces. The Elder remains skeptical until Chang presents a list containing the names of the 10 highest-ranking members of Big Mouse's organization. He offers a calculated deal. If the Elder supports his mayoral campaign, he will dismantle the organization from within, eliminating any obstacles in the Elder's path. Intrigued but cautious, the Elder does not commit immediately but invites Chang to his upcoming birthday celebration. Outside, Choi issues a warning: this is a battle Chang cannot win. Meanwhile, Miho and her father uncover a startling revelation at a nursing home. They locate an elderly man who was once the elder's business partner. Unlike the elder, he had envisioned an ethical business model, but his ideals clashed with the elder's ruthless ambition. When he opposed him, the elder orchestrated an accident that left him gravely injured. The most shocking discovery, however, is that Mayor Choi is this man's grandson. Years ago, Choi adopted a new identity to infiltrate the elder's circle, ensuring his true lineage remained undetected. His ultimate goal? Revenge. The next day, Choi manipulates Park into aiding him in eliminating Chong. That evening, as the elder's birthday celebration unfolds, Miho realizes her husband is missing. The horrifying truth soon emerges. Park has abducted Chong and, while on a video call with Choi, executes him. When Miho learns of her husband's fate, she launches herself at Choi in a fit of rage, but he simply smiles. The mayor visits Park at the warehouse where Chong was supposedly killed but finds no trace of his body. Park assures him it has been taken care of, while Choi outlines his strategy to take over the city. However, Chong is alive. His death was a ruse. Cha, having recorded everything, presents the footage to the elder, warning him that Choi will inevitably turn against him. Seeing an opportunity, the elder shifts allegiance, believing Chong to be the safer bet. Choi, realizing time is against him, acts swiftly. That night, he murders the elder by injecting a lethal drug into his bloodstream, then steals his will and hands it over to an accomplice to be altered. At the elder's funeral, tensions boil over, leading to physical altercations. Meanwhile, Miho visits the imprisoned serial killer, who reveals that prisoners began falling ill after working in a tunnel with contaminated water pipes. Before parting, he makes a final request. He wants her to check on his mother. When Miho locates his siblings, they refuse to speak to her. However, she soon realizes she is also sick, as her nose and gums begin to bleed. Elsewhere, Ji-Hoon tries to manipulate the attorney responsible for reading the elder's will, hoping to have it rewritten. The attorney refuses, undeterred by bribes or threats. When the will is finally revealed, it stuns everyone. The elder split his assets between Hyun and Choi, leaving the others with only their existing shares. Chaos erupts, while Choi and his wife exit silently. That night, Choi fabricates a story for his wife, claiming he is the grandson of the elder's former business partner. He feigns uncertainty, questioning whether the elder entrusted him with half of the assets out of merit or obligation. Hyun reassures him of her unwavering support, and with that, his election campaign begins. Choi leverages his vast connections, dominating media coverage to secure public favor. Meanwhile, Miho visits a doctor for tests, receiving devastating news: she has cancer. Determined to make the most of her time, she spends the evening drinking with her husband, cherishing a rare moment of joy by the lake. The next day, Ji-Hoon and his associates meet under tense circumstances, aware that Choi and Hyun now control everything. When Ji-Hoon attempts resistance, Hyun threatens to call a board meeting and strip him of his CEO position. Feeling trapped, Ji-Hoon turns to Cha, revealing a hidden card. The elder had an estranged son in America, a dangerous man even his own father disowned. If brought back, he might legally contest the will. Meanwhile, Miho learns the serial killer is on his deathbed. She visits him, granting his final wish by reassuring him that his mother is well. Peace, he dies. His sister then reveals a shocking truth: her brother was never the real killer. He took the fall for a wealthy psychopath in exchange for money to save their mother. Determined to expose the truth, Miho confronts Hyun, urging her to stop before more lives are lost. That night, she assists her husband with his campaign while secretly advancing her own investigation. The next day, Choi strikes back. He bribes a known cryptocurrency scammer to falsely claim that Chong, as the victim's attorney, deliberately lost their case in exchange for a bribe. However, Miho uncovers a far more damning secret. She traces a toxic water supply to NK Chemicals, a company once owned by the elder. A man at a fish farm confesses that NK Chemicals disposes of hazardous waste by funneling it into their water supply. Though they don't sell the poisoned fish, the farm exists solely as a front. The water, if consumed, is fatal. As Choi and Chong engage in a live televised debate, Miho races to the studio with critical evidence. Jerry drives her, but they are pursued by Choi's men. Fortunately, undercover Big Mouse operatives within the police clear their path. Arriving just in time, Miho seizes the microphone and makes a stunning revelation: she has cancer, caused by exposure to NK Chemicals' contaminated water. She plays a video confession from the fish farm, exposing the scandal to the nation. Outrage erupts, igniting mass protests. As the scandal spirals, the prosecutor summons Choi for questioning. Meanwhile, Chong meets Hyun privately, urging her to do the right thing. He reminds her that her actions have cost countless lives, including Miho's. Despite the scandal, Choi wins the election, securing his grip on power. No one can believe it, but Miho urges them to stay hopeful. Then, unexpectedly, they receive a package from Hyun, a burner phone Choi once used for illicit dealings. Could be the key to his downfall. As Miho's health declines, she refuses to miss the trial, believing the phone will be the evidence needed to convict Choi. But Choi is ahead of the game. One of his accomplices claims ownership of the phone, and all incriminating messages have been erased. With no case against him, Choi walks free. A few days later, Miho succumbs to her illness. After paying his final respects, Chang takes justice into his own hands. He meets Choi at a private gym, revealing that he now owns the facility. Since the law failed, he will deliver justice himself. As Choi scoffs, Chang delivers his final revelation. The pool has been filled with toxic water from NK chemicals. As the contamination takes hold, Choi collapses, dying in agony before Chang's eyes. Thanks so much for watching. You're amazing. And we'd love for you to stick around. Hit subscribe and let's dive into more great stories.